After coaching thousands of women over the last decade, I have found one very big problem when it comes to self-care rituals. It's consistency. It's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we fall short in showing up for ourselves on a daily basis. We either wait till we have the perfect, moment, the temperatures are the right thing, your tea was steeped to the perfect degree, like we have to wait for these settings to be perfect to finally show up for our soul. Or the other is true, we wait for the shit to hit the fan, we hit rock bottom, and then we have no fucking choice. So in this episode, I want to share a little bit about how we make self-care an embodied part of our life so that we move throughout the day constantly checking in with ourselves rather than having a rigid routine of I've got to set 3 hours or 1 hour, 15 minutes every day for myself. Otherwise, I won't show up and do the work and look within. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 16 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation and working with thousands of clients, we've found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset that aligns with your authenticity, integrity, and soul purpose, regardless of your past.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness. We don't shy away from the taboo topics like sex, hypnosis, meditation, and exploring altered states of consciousness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be.
The big problem that I find is that most people don't have mini routines. For me,
M-A-N-Y or M-I-N-I?
Both. Both. So I'm a big note taker. I take notes on everything. Whenever I read something, I take notes. If I watch something, I take notes. If I'm hearing I just love to take notes. And the reason why is because I like to take those and then assimilate them into something so that it forms some sort of habitual routine. And I need them to always be small because I want things that I can do at the drop of a hat. If I feel a certain way, if I ate something and my stomach is upset, what do I need to do? Where's my routine for that? So I have literally a million routines written down for little things. And that's how I start capitalizing on my self-care. So that, like Britt said, it's not something that I'm spending a fortune time doing. It doesn't take me an entire day to do it, but I'm doing it all day long. This is such an easy trick. I have something I'm going to do when I'm in the car. If I get frustrated for some reason in the car, I'm going to do it before I get on the phone and make a big phone call. I'm going to do it right after I get done speaking. I'm going to do it right when I wake up on Sunday morning. I'm going to do it before I go to bed. So self-care is something that has to be baked in nonstop. It's not like, I don't know if I did my self-care today. It's like, hell, I did 45 things today. I just didn't stack them on top of each other, so it seemed like it was the only thing I was doing. For example, I love taking a break from work. There's got to be a moment where your brain goes, okay, I have thought enough. And so for a moment, I'm going to get up, I'm going to move a little bit. Maybe I'll do a little breath work. Maybe I'll close my eyes down for a little bit, let them rest. Maybe I'll jump on the trampoline. Maybe it will be something. But there has to be that moment where you can tell yourself, okay, I need it now. And the best part is when you do this more often, what you find yourself not doing anymore is blaming other people for how you feel. A lot of times what we just need is a few small moments spread out throughout the day, spread out throughout the week, where we know we are drained, or we know we need a little bit of pick-me-up, and I'm not reaching for that caffeine. I'm not reaching for any kind of 5-hour power or any kind of external stimulants. I've got all the drugs. My body can already create all the endorphins, all the oxygen, all the things that I need. I just need to know how to operate it and then plug it into my schedule.
Self-care really isn't an action. It's a way of being. It's being able to constantly check in with yourself on a moment-to-moment basis and to have the courage to look within and not be afraid of the emotions or the mental crazy turmoil that might be presenting itself. It's having that deep, intimate relationship with yourself, with your mind, with your body, so that you have the courage to look within in the moment when, hey, maybe trauma strikes or your boss says some crazy shit or your husband's being a dick or whatever the case may be. You go into that automatic fight or flight experience, and like Chris mentioned, when you have the tools to be able to choose how you want to respond, that's when you can break that cycle, hello, self-sabotaging cycle of constantly responding in a way that isn't aligned with who you want to be. And a lot of the times it's our ego just protecting us because we don't have that pause, that moment to say, okay, I recognize how this makes me feel. And instead of just going into that fight mode where you just respond like, here's how we normally do it, you actually living an embodied self-care, self-love type of lifestyle allows you that moment to say, ooh, okay, I notice how this makes me feel. And how can I respond out of love and in alignment?
Okay, so you tapped on something extremely important in there, and I think this is one of the easiest and best ways to get started with self-care if you do not have anything or like, I'm not sure what to do. Use the pause as your self-care. When you are talking to somebody, and right before you go to say something back, just take one breath. One simple, nice, conscious, deep breath. Breathe in through your nose, back out through your nose, keep your mouth closed. Just nice big breath. So they're talking. The waiter says, hey, what would you like to order? Are you ready to order? You just go, yeah, you know what I'd really like? And then boom, you're off and running. Because you took that pause, you are always tapping back into the present moment. Remember, there's a lot of different reasons for self-care, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. We're going to need self-care for our spiritual side. Maybe that's prayer for you, some sort of gratitude, meditation. I don't know what it is, some kind of spiritual thing. We're going to need some kind of physical self-care. We need to think about our body. Remember, also self-care are decisions that you pick while you're at the restaurant, while you're at the grocery store, when you're driving by McDonald's. Everything needs to be kind of planned out and prepped a little bit beforehand so that you can act in the moment and act in a way that's congruent and aligned with who you are and what you want to be in the future. I love using the pause trick though. I'm telling you, for your mental health, the pause can be one of the most healthy things, because for most of us, we believe that our mind and our emotions are who we are and how we act in the world. When you take the pause, what you start to realize is that there is a bigger, much more powerful, much stronger thing just beyond those emotions, and you don't have to always react for them. Of course, they're going to come up. That will always happen. There's not a way to stop that I know of. But when you have the emotional trigger get set off and you don't respond to it, or you sit with it just for a long enough moment to get your rational mind to think again and to go, okay, should I really open my mouth right now? Is this fight worth fighting right now? Do I need to really just provoke this person? Do I need to jump on top of it? Is this my fight to fight? Is this I need to be in this? The second that you start taking pauses regularly, well, you'll notice that you start being calm. You start calming down enough. And as you start calming down, you start to enjoy life more. So it's one of those things that spills over into everything. Taking a pause can be one of the most tremendous things that you implement in your daily life.
When you take a pause, you basically embody yourself as the witness. You now are the witness of your thoughts, the witness of your reactions, not responses. You become the witness of what is coming up for you. And that's when you can take conscious control and say, I don't want to respond that way any longer. I'm going to choose something different. And that's how we start to reclaim our power. Ultimately, this conversation was geared all about self-care. And as Chris mentioned, we need multiple types of self-care. It's not just like drink a green juice and do some yoga and your inner childhood trauma and wounds are fixed and healed. I wish it were that simple.
One of the other big problems that I see, and there's a kind of a two-parter. The first one is a lot of people don't do self-care in their life because they don't value themselves enough. They literally don't love themselves enough to do the kind of care and maintenance that our bodies and minds and everything take. And so it's really important if you've gotten to a place where you're like, well, I'm not really doing any self-care for me right now. I'm just too busy with that. Is that an excuse that you're telling yourself? Is that just a small white lie? Because how busy really are you? How busy really are you not to get the machine that you have running at optimal? Because I'll tell you, the difference between you running at 60% of what you could and you running at 80% of what you could is enormous. The amount of benefit that every single person gets by being in your experience when you feel at your best or even close to your best is incredible. Your kids do better. Your partner does better. The opportunities that you go out there and find will be better. More will attract to you. The other thing that I see a lot of times, like I said, goes hand in hand. That's guilt. I find this so damn often, and it's so frustrating to see people let this one tear them down. That is, if I spend time bettering myself, that's less time that I have with my kids. That's less time that I have with my partner. That's less time I'm able to work on my work.
It's more quality time, though, on the other side. Like, you get a more quality result on the other side of that.
So imagine it. Imagine that your partner is right there next to you, right? And you said, well, I'm not going to do my self-care today. I really don't have time for that. So when you show up as that 60% self. You're like, you didn't give the use of your body, doesn't feel that great. You probably didn't do the right nutrition, so your energy levels aren't that fantastic. Your mind isn't where it needs to be. You're not in the present moment, so you're distracted. What's the first thing you do? You pick up your phone, you scroll on the socials. So your partner's sitting there, you're drained, you don't feel good, you're complaining, you're blaming other people for what's going on in life because you haven't taken any responsibility, and then you're thinking about other things the entire time. Who did you really show up as? Nobody. You may as well not show up at all. Just being around the person isn't good enough. You have to be able to put forth your energy, and that energy only comes about, those good ideas only come about, especially if you've been wanting to get creative for a while. Self-care is the best thing you can do. The first thing that happens that Britt and I always do whenever we're going to talk about any kind of discussion, products that we're going to come out with, clients that we're working with, all sorts of stuff like that, we go take a walk. Walk is one of our self-care. And not only is it for the physical benefit, not only is it for being outside and breathing fresh air, getting the sunlight on the skin, but it's also being together. We are in that present moment with each other, but also being able to talk about things. And so it's so important to start putting these things into practice, putting these things into play. And you'll notice that all those excuses and everything and the guilt and all that really starts to unravel when you start looking at it logically. Because when I show up better as me, everything happens. My body feels better, not complaining about it. I've been eating healthy food, feel better. I've been doing my exercise, so I've got plenty of energy to give all the way through, however long, whatever kind of work I want to do is. I'm not crushing myself with all the caffeine and getting jittery and all, and needing another bump of something to be able to sustain myself. And I'm able to be present. I'm able to be present because I'm taking that pause. I'm not just thinking and thinking and thinking. I'm listening. I'm caring. I'm being sympathetic. I'm being more vulnerable, more emotional, more open, and allowing myself to be that way with people. Sometimes the pause will just allow you to have some silence with somebody. I am constantly amazed at the amount of people who never surround themselves with a little bit of silence. It can be so healthy for you just to sit with your attitudes, just to sit with the situations going on in your life, what you've been feeling lately, and let that happen. Sometimes self-care just means taking a few deep breaths just over in the corner by yourself and just going, man, whew, that was a lot. And take a couple breaths and all of a sudden you're like, I got this next part. And it revitalizes you. It's that oxygen. All the stuff is built into our bodies.
You know, circling back to what we talked about earlier is when shit hits the fan, it's so easy to fall off the bandwagon, especially if it's not built into your daily routine and daily habit. You know, it's called self-care because ain't nobody gonna come do it for you. So this is basically your responsibility to the quality and elevation of your life. And we recently had shit hit the fan. My cat passed away almost unexpectedly. We did have a very beautiful last 6 weeks with him, and that was when I doubled down on my self-care, because when my dad passed away, I threw self-care out the window. I said, you know what, I just don't feel like moving my body. I did a lot of the things that I normally do, but I skipped out on a very important piece, and that's the movement of the body. And that led me then to be a little bit more crabby and like not as happy and joyful in my mind and in my spirit. And I saw how just taking one puzzle piece of the self-care holistic approach kind of affected and domino affected into all other areas of my life and my business. So when we recently went through this tragedy of losing Noodles, I looked at Chris and was like, ready to work out? Like, we got to move. We got to keep this energy moving, especially with the amount of crying that I've been doing, like real talk, just being super vulnerable. So for me, who does a great job with the mental self-care, there's the physical self-care that I tend to just throw out the window when I get sad because it takes over my body. And I've decided that that's not going to be the way that I respond moving forward. And then I'm going to continue to make that energy move throughout my body so it doesn't get stagnant and settle.
Yeah, it's amazing all the little different things that self-care can help you do. It's amazing what happens when you just realize you wake up one day and you say, you know what, if this is going to be done, I'm going to be the one that has to do it. And taking that on and saying, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I'm given the gift of this life. I'm given the gift of this body, and I'm going to run it just like it needs to run. And so it's really important as you start to get into your self-care to start thinking about what do you need to learn more of? Where are you missing out on? So if you're one of those people that's like, you know what, my physical fitness sucks right now, and I've been going through some stuff, and I've kind of let this slide, or maybe it's the spiritual part you haven't been doing. And when I talk about spiritual side, it doesn't necessarily always mean religious. A lot of times, spiritual side is sort of discovering who you are. It's really a self-discovery journey, figuring out how you connect with life, figuring out how you connect with nature,
and how you relate to others.
Yeah, what your relationship is with everything. And so a lot of times when I'm talking about spiritual stuff, that can just be sitting. That can just be going out into nature and figuring out where you are there. And so it's really important to say, what have I been doing really well on, and where have I been absolutely dropping the ball? Because for what you want to do in life, no matter what goal you have, some of it is going to require self-care. Some of it is going to require you showing up with either better energy or a more sound mind, or a better physical stature. If you want to play sports and have fun with your kids and stuff like that, you want to go on hikes, you want to go tour places, you got to be in a certain amount of shape. If you want to really show up and serve, if you want to be a person who gets in front of people who have been hurt, who have had trauma in their lives, who you're gonna show up for them. Maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a stylist, maybe something that deals with people's emotions. You're going to have to be super sound. Your mind is going to have to be pristine, especially as you show up with them. Your heart space is going to have to be cleaned off. And all that happens only with self-care. And that's something that you have to continuously be doing. This is not something that you get to do for a couple of days and then suddenly you don't have to do it anymore. You do it for a time period, and I love doing this with people. The best way that I've ever seen to really get started with self-care, strangely enough, is to get around other people who are doing it and to really figure out what routines and what habits they're into and borrowing some and see what works for you, especially if you don't have your routine down perfectly. You want to borrow a little bit from them and borrow a little bit from the next person and go, hey, how have you been doing this? What do you do to kind of clear the energy when you're done? And so you can have those little mini routines that I talked about in the beginning. I have so many of those. So it's so important for you to start writing yours down, knowing that when you wake up, this is definitely what you need. After you eat lunch and before you get back into whatever task, this is what you need. So begin thinking about it and thinking about, what do I need to learn how to do? If it's fitness, then you learn about your fitness, learn about your body more, become educated, and read the books, listen to the people. If it's a spiritual thing, you got to start reading the books, got to start listening to the people that way, and then find what resonates with you. It's so important to be able to tackle this from the different sides so that you can be getting the benefit. What's really cool to me is that as you start to get into the body, what you'll notice is that the mind opens up. We interviewed an amazing lady about fascia, and the wild part is her talking about how as you begin to break open the fascia in the body, you get the different mental aspects, you get different spiritual aspects. So a lot of these will overlap on top of each other, but it's important to address every system independently.
So as you know, around here we operate on the 7 or above rule. So I want you to take a moment to tune in. Tune into your self-care when it comes to the physical aspect of it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to showing up for your physical self-care? 1 being not at all and 10 being absolutely crushing it. Now I want you to do the same. On a scale of 1 to 10, think about the mental aspect of your self-care. Have you been quieting your mind? Have you been relaxing, tuning into peace, going within to find your creativity, inspiration, and intuition? On a scale of 1 to 10, now I want you to think about your spiritual self-care. Do you feel supported? Do you have faith? Do you have hope and trust in the future? Where are you at when it comes to your spiritual, physical, and emotional self-care? Take a moment to do that 7 or above assessment. And as you've been hearing us talk about self-care and all the different tools for when someone cuts you off, or your boss says something, or your partner leaves the toilet lid up, or whatever the case may be where you're constantly getting triggered, the tools that Chris talk about come in time, and it's through exploration and curiosity and just practicing trial and error. So if you're someone who's been sitting here listening thinking, holy shit, I need to up my self-care game. I want tools to be able to deal with all the different ups and downs of life, but I'm not exactly sure what mine are, and my consistency has been kind of lacking. Then you're in luck, because on September 18th, we are bringing back the live 5-day self-care Kickstart challenge. This challenge was born over 10 years ago, actually when I stepped out from behind the chair to start teaching and educating and empower others to learn to love themselves, to embrace their authenticity, and to let go of fear. Self-care was the basis of the conversation, and my self-care Kickstart challenge has had thousands of women go through this experience so that they can start building those consistent rituals for themselves, basically finding their unique blueprint to showing up for their soul, but not doing it alone. We all feel alone on this journey, and I know having an award-winning soul coach on your team as your accountability buddy is exactly what you have been missing in your day-to-day life when it comes to showing up consistently for yourself. So you're absolutely invited to join us for this five-day live experience that starts on September 18th through the 22nd. All you have to do is go to brittneycarmichael.com/challenge. You can send me a DM, say challenge. I'll know exactly what you mean, and I'll hook you up with the link if that is how you prefer to roll. And know that when it comes to being consistent, it doesn't have to be hard. It just has to be made fun and simple for you. When we try to live by other people's formulas and routines, oftentimes we feel like a failure because we don't measure up to what other people are doing. But the permission I'm going to give you here that makes it so different is that you get to craft your perfect self-care routine.
I'll tell you one of the things too, if you want to really knock this out of the park, if this is something where you say, you know what, I'm going to make the last part of this year really going ham. I'm really gonna put all the chips in my basket and figuring out how good can I really have it? How really good can I feel? I'll tell you what you should do. Go find one or two of your best friends, a couple of your best mates, and say, hey, I'm going to do this self-care challenge. I want you to join in here with me. I think this is going to be really awesome. And I really think you're going to benefit a ton from this. Are you down for joining? I think we'll love it together. Every time that I go in with a friend with something, anytime that I'm passionate about something and I realize like, hey, I bet my friend could use this too, I'll go get excited about it, let them go get excited about it, and then we both get this win together. And it was like we experienced it together. It's almost like we went on a little vacation or something. So it's so important to get that support team, because when you have your friends also telling you about the same stuff, like, hey man, did you do that today? Hey, you've been doing this thing? Hey, I found this thing that I think you'll like because you've been doing it this way. This makes me more consistent when I do it like this. I love these conversations. If you were hanging out with me when I talk to my friends in person, you would know that a lot of our conversations end up revolving around this and end up revolving around what it is that I am currently doing and how it's working for me. I cannot tell you how many people I see 5 months later, 6 months later, and I walk in, I'm like, holy smokes, what's so different about you right now? And they tell me, well, it's because of what you said last time. It's because of what you and I talked about last time. I started implementing it. I started doing it every day. You just haven't been over here in a little bit. Look at all the progress that's been made. It is amazing what you can do and how much further you can go in life, how much happier you can be, how much more joy you can experience when you start to take care of yourself. Because when you lay down that responsibility, when you say, I'm going to do it for me, I believe in me, I have faith in me, I can do more things, what ends up happening is that the doors to everything open wide up. It's almost like everything was so hard and oh my gosh, everyone's just so lucky and I can't catch a break. And then I start taking care of me and then everything else starts falling right into place. It is incredible what happens. And I'm so glad you were vulnerable and mentioned the fact that it was tough. The loss that we just went through was really tough. And the one thing that I absolutely would not do is skimp at all on self-care. As a matter of fact, it got bumped to the very front of everything. Everything else got pushed way back. And so when we concentrated on that, we're able to get through things. It's hard. A lot of life is hard. There's circumstances or situations that are very, very, very difficult. But when you start to bulletproof yourself against them, when you start to really take care of yourself, you're a machine. You're designed in so many beautiful, wonderful ways, and start taking advantage of it. Go find a friend and tell them, hey, look, let's go do this together. I think you and I are going to have a great time. I want to see you succeed.
So bring your girlfriends and let's succeed together, because I know that in my own personal journey, self-care during Virgo season is at an all-time high. Now is the perfect time to recreate and reinvent your routines, and self-care is the foundation of all of the success in your life. I find that the more I pour into myself and stop trying to control the external world, world, word, whatever, all the things, when I stop trying to control the external and trying to move all the pieces that seem like they're crumbling beneath me, and I just let it all go, surrender, and turn within and ask, what do I really need right now? And I have the courage to show up and give myself that nurturing, that love, that attention, that support that I need in that moment. It seems like you mentioned everything just tends to flow into the right place. So if you've been lacking on your self-care journey and you want an accountability buddy like me, then all you have to do is sign up at brittneycarmichael.com/challenge. I cannot wait to spend 5 days of consistent self-care and self-love with you. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Let us know how you enjoyed this topic and where you're sitting at on the scale of 7 or above when it comes to your self-care. Shoot us a DM and let us know where you're at on your journey, and we cannot wait to support you on the other side. Until then, we'll catch you next week. Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. If you loved this episode, please share that love by leaving us a 5-star review and spreading the good vibes on social. You can tag us at the Elevated Life Club. Want more wisdom from us? Become an elevator by joining us inside our monthly membership club at theelevatedlifeclub.com to discover mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a live group coaching masterclass, guided meditations, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
It has all the tools, coaching, and community you need to level up, progress every month, and keep going in every area of your life consistently over the long term.
Join us in the club and start your transformation today by signing up at theelevatedlifeclub.com.